Okay, welcome everybody. It looks like our video is rolling and we're ready to get started. My name is Julene Johnson, and I wanted to welcome you to our webinar with the Music and Dementia Research Network. The title of our webinar today is Music-Based Interventions for Older Adults, an overview of the Music and Dementia Research Network. And shortly on the next slide, I'm going to introduce my co-investigators on this research network, Dr. Melita Belgrave and Dr. Jose Contreras Vidal. And once again, thanks for joining us. Just to let you know, this recording will be made available, and we will post this on our social media accounts and also our website. So it's really great to have you here with us today. And if any of you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. So without further ado, let's continue on. Okay, so the goals for our webinar today are to introduce our team who is leading the Music and Dementia Research Network. I'll call it MDRN if you see that acronym. We'll also provide a context in which the NIH funding occurred to help support the U24 music research networks, of which we are one. We'll also learn about the rationale for why music. Why are we studying music in the context of Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's disease-related disorders? And finally, you'll get to learn about the goals of the Music Research Network, particularly related to how we hope to accelerate mechanistic studies, and importantly, tap into the expertise of mobile brain-body technologies, where Pepe will talk about at the end of the overview of our research network. And importantly, understand how you can get involved and what the research network will offer you. So again, welcome. Please put any questions in the Q&A section, and we'll try to get to that at the very end. Okay, so first, our Music and Dementia Research Network is working to accelerate studies about the impact of music on health and well-being in the context of people living with dementia and their care partners. And be sure to visit our website and sign up for our newsletter, follow us on social media, and please join the network. But right now, what I'd love to do is have everybody introduce themselves. I will first start. My name is Julene Johnson. I'm the principal investigator of the Music and Dementia Research Network. And I am a cognitive neuroscientist by training, but I also did my undergraduate degree in music and have been doing music related to music and aging and dementia for almost 30 years. So I'm super honored to be here with my colleagues, and I want to ping it over to Dr. Belgrave and tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in being a part of this research network, and anything else you want to add. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, hello, everybody. My name is Melita. I am a music therapy professor and at ASU, Arizona State University, over here in Tempe, Arizona. I have a focus on working with individuals, older individuals. So I love the aging population, anything from wellness experiences like having a rock band and getting older adults to learn new music, anything with intergenerational programming, bringing young people and older people together. And then my first love, which was working with individuals with dementia, especially those in the later stages. As language is going, music is really present. So I'm really excited to connect with the network to collaborate, to build on what I already know, but having another team partner help take what I know to a different level. And I love building community. So I'm so excited to see the numbers increasing on our webinar as we're continuing to talk to each other and hoping that everyone will join the network if you're not already a part of it. And then I'm gonna, I guess, toss it over to my colleague, Jose. Also
Thank
Pepe.
you, thank you. Yeah, I go by Pepe, by the way. Yeah, so my name is Jose Pepe Contreras Vidal. I'm a professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Houston. I'm also the center director for the IUCRC Brain. It's a national center funded by National Science Foundation to develop neurotechnologies. and to advance them, in the translational path to the end users. And my training is in both neuroscience, computational neuroscience, and engineering. So we are developing devices that could be used to deliver these music-based interventions, and which is one of the reasons I'm very, very pleased, very happy about this network. I think it's going to be very important. It is already very important to collaborate, to bring disciplines, to advance this area, and I'm hoping that we can help you to achieve that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pepe. And I think you really pointed out how important it is that our team is multidisciplinary. And we're really coming at this idea of music in the context of dementia from different perspectives and disciplines. And that was true by design. We did that. And also, I wanted to introduce to you Dr. Jing Chang, who is not with us today, but she is part of our research network as a statistician. So as you all start to think about pilot projects, Jing is available to help with thinking about research design and methods. She works on several of my grants here at UCSF related to music-based interventions, and she's really wonderful to work with. And last but not least, I want to introduce Julian Silva, who is the project manager for the Music and Dementia Research Network. And extremely important is that Julian is also a music therapist here at UCSF Benioff Hospitals. And so, as you can see, we take very seriously our multidisciplinary perspective on our research network. And so the other folks I wanted to introduce you to are our other significant contributors. And these folks have been tapped to help us think about the research network as we grow. And on the far left on the top is Dr. Psyche Louie, who's a cognitive neuroscientist who's been studying music and brain all of her career. In the middle, we have Dr. Teresa Allison, who is a geriatrician and ethnomusicologist and studies music in the context of the home setting. Super exciting work. And Dr. Asal Habibi is the person on the far right who also studies music in the brain and uses really creative community-based approaches to thinking about what can we learn about the impact of music on health and wellness. And importantly, we plan to systematically grow our research network via you all, by adding cores and nodes. You see there's places that we hope to build out our research advocacy team, where we're thinking about the importance of increasing mechanistic studies. And we're going to be doing this over a total of 5 years. So we're currently in year 2 of our research network, but we're super excited to work more closely with you all and help together. And Melita, were you going to add something? Oh,
No, I'm just moving and expressing joy. Don't mind me.
Feel free to jump in, Pepe and Melita, anytime. Okay, so just as a little context, I wanted to let folks know that our U24, which is funded by the National Institute of Health, in particular the National Institute on Aging, was part of a larger initiative called the Sound Health Initiative. And you all may remember back in 2015, there was this wonderful story and chance meeting of Dr. Francis Collins on the right playing the guitar with soprano Renee Fleming, opera star Renee Fleming. And this chance meeting helped become the spark that became the Sound Health Initiative and brought together all of these partners below: the National Endowment for the Arts, the NIH, the Kennedy Center, and of course, Renee Fleming. So it's important to think about, where did this all come from? And in 2017, a panel of 25 experts were convened at the NIH to discuss the current research on music and health, and make recommendations to accelerate the study of music's effect on the brain and implications for human health. And I see Pepe has his hand up.
Yeah, Julina, are you showing some slides? Because I don't see them. Just, I don't know if,
Can everybody else see? Melita, can you see the slides?
I can see the slides. I would love it if our friends in the webinar, if someone can just drop in the chat whether you can see the slides or not. That'd be
In the
really helpful
Q&A?
for us
I
in the
don't see
Q&A or
them.
the chat.
So,
Okay, they can see the slides. I'll send you a message just right now, Pepe, while Julian's going on.
thank you.
Okay. So in the context of that NIH Kennedy Center workshop that took place in 2017, the group of individuals who were invited to come to the NIH reviewed all of the literature that were related to music-based interventions and music research across the lifespan. And here you can see that the amount of research into the effects of music and health has increased. And these non-pharmacologic approaches, such as music-based interventions, continue to be explored for the treatment and symptom management of brain disorders of aging, including stroke, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease and related disorders. And there is emerging evidence to support that music engages many different areas of the brain and may aid to strengthen these brain networks and pathways involved in sensory and motor processes, involved also in emotion, affect, and memory. So important for being a human being. And then given that many of these domains can be affected by brain disorders of aging, music may therefore represent a less invasive, perhaps more accessible therapeutic approach than other traditional pharmacologic approaches. But during this workshop, we reviewed other types of conditions, and the words and the conditions that you see bolded here on the slide are the ones that had relatively robust research evidence that was emerging. And of course, dementia, Parkinson's, and stroke were associated with older adults. So that was one of the reasons why a focus in developing a recommendation for a research network related to music and dementia was recommended. So at this workshop, we actually worked on an article that made recommendations after this workshop, and this was published in Neuron in 2018. So I recommend you all look up this article, take a look at it, because the next slide shows that we made, along with my colleagues, made recommendations related to basic and mechanistic research related to music and health. There was also a focus on both translational and clinical research. Importantly, thinking about methods and outcomes, and especially important for the webinar today, there was an interest in building out capacity and infrastructure related to music and research. And as a direct outcome from those recommendations, 4 music research networks were funded with a start date of 2023. And you'll see from the pictures here that Music and Dementia Research Network, our network, is one of 4. The other 3 networks are focused on pain. And I encourage you to reach out and find these networks, join their research networks also, and get involved more actively, because this is a really exciting time in the history of music and health research. The NIH also published the Music-Based Intervention Toolkit, which I highly encourage you to check out. The reference is below. It was published in Neurology in 2023, but this toolkit provides music and health researchers with recommendations for how to study music-based interventions and gives really wonderful guidance for how to design the studies, how to bring multidisciplinary teams together to do the studies, etc. So I highly encourage you to check out this publication if you're interested in music and brain and music and health research in the context of Alzheimer's disease and related disorders. Now I'd like to turn it over to Melita, who's going to tell us a little bit more about what is it about the context of and why music in the context of Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's disease related disorders. Thank you, Melita.
Definitely, definitely. I can think of when I was a child, the way Alzheimer's disease affected my life with older adults in my community. And that number just hasn't decreased. It is just increasing rapidly. You can see from that stat with the amount of people living with Alzheimer's disease. And this idea that it's such a debilitating disease for the person who has it, as well as provides a lot of stress for everyone in their community, their loved ones, their caregivers, eventually making the decision on whether someone can live in the home or move to a facility. And one of the most beautiful things is that music-based interventions are showing a lot of promise and have been effective as a tool for addressing the needs of those with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. And at this moment, feeling that there's this urgent need for accessible and especially the cultural relevant part, because it goes across all cultures and all groups of people, and deciding and determining cost-effective approaches to reduce burden and improve well-being for everyone involved in caring for someone that has Alzheimer's disease. Have you go to the next slide for me?
Melita, could I add
Please.
one other context too? I think importantly, while music-based interventions for people living with dementia and their care providers, whether they be community members, family members, friends, etc., we did review the literature and found that a lot of these studies had some limitations. And so one of the things is we found that and concluded that oftentimes the size of the study were small, so we needed larger trials. The quality of these studies was sometimes lower than what we had hoped for. So we're working on increasing the rigor and reproducibility of these studies. Importantly, inclusion of diverse populations was limited. And as we all know, music is relevant to, I would say, every culture in the world. And so, a lot of these studies were focused more on people with perhaps higher socioeconomic status, less diversity, et cetera. So there was a need to increase inclusion in these studies and representation. Also, the studies didn't have agreed upon outcomes. And so we want to think about what are the best outcomes and what are the outcomes of interest, depending on what the music-based intervention is. And the analytic approaches were oftentimes flawed and had some limitations, which is one of the reasons why we have Jing Cheng on our team to help us think about the limitations in statistics and research design. There were also unclear mechanisms and bias in interpreting the studies. So this was really an opportunity for us to help improve the quality of the research, to accelerate the studies, and start to really address some of these limitations. So I will then go on to the next slide, Melita.
Yeah, thanks for adding those in, Julie, because they're really important as we think about where are we going in the future, and where the ways of the network and people can join us on this journey over the next few years. Yeah. So, overall goal of the Music Dementia Research Network is really this idea of building this interdisciplinary network and multidisciplinary network that can accelerate research that aims to understand the mechanisms by which music-based interventions are affecting health and well-being for older adults living with Alzheimer's disease, and more importantly, their care partners, and studying those things together. And then you'll see that we have 3 specific aims for the Music Dementia Research Network. You've heard it kind of woven through our conversations already. Multi-institution, multidisciplinary research network to accelerate the mechanistic studies. The second aim, which we've just started going through this calendar year, seeding and promoting multidisciplinary collaborations through a pilot project program focused on mechanistic studies. And then the most important part is disseminating key resources to sustain impact and evaluate progress, and making sure that we're doing that in multiple spaces that individuals can have access to the resources to continue to move this research and clinical work forward.
And I would add also seed new collaborations. And I know Pepe just returned from a visit with one of the members of the research network, and the whole idea is to get people talking across disciplines and thinking about different ways of collaboration. So this is really an exciting time for me, having done research in music and dementia for almost 30 years, and to see this excitement of building a research network so we can work on this all together.
And then here are some of the strategies that we've been exploring and working on. So there was a year one retreat that's on the next slide that I believe Julene is going to share more about. Pilot grants, cohort building, mentoring, workshops and webinars like you're joining with us today, some strategic priority working groups, and then annual meetings of the networks.
So this is a really exciting summit that we hosted and co-hosted with AARP in Washington, D.C. And we co-hosted as part of the Brain Health Action Collaborative that the AARP is supporting, and that this brought together 40 researchers and community members and clinicians from multiple disciplines to discuss how music affects health and well-being of older adults living with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. And the outcome of the summit is going to be a publication that's outlining our research priorities. In addition to the 2-day event where we talked among ourselves and came up with research priorities, we also hosted a public event which showcased the power of music, song, and dance for brain health, and many positive impacts of music therapy for individuals living with dementia. And I don't know, Pepe, do you want to talk a little bit about your team that you brought from the University of Houston and the Brain Center to help execute this public day it was really wonderful.
Yeah, no, it was phenomenal. Some of the students came with me, and we brought the technology, or some of the technology to be able to instrument some of the performers during the event, the public event, and we were able to talk about what it takes to do this right in a public setting, and what kind of data you can get, what are the challenges, the potential pitfalls of doing this as we break new ground in terms of understanding music-based interventions.
Yeah, it was great to have Pepe's students and colleagues at the summit, and it was just really wonderful to have so many multidisciplinary conversations. Okay, so what can this research network do for you? Well, Melita talked about some of the ways in which we can help collaborate more, work together, spur new collaborations, et cetera, and learn. But we're also working on some collaborative publications, both with the other research networks as a consortium, but also the own Music and Dementia Research Network. And we're currently working on research priorities. We're hoping to develop some online catalogs of music-based interventions for people living with dementia, and also mobile brain-body interface technologies, which Pepe will talk about in just a minute. Importantly, we're on social media. Check out our website, and please create a directory. So join the network, create a profile, follow us on social media, and sign up for a newsletter. And you can use this QR code here to do just that. So we encourage you all to get more involved. And again, we're looking for multiple disciplines, whether you're a community-based organization, a music therapist, student, perhaps you're a researcher in brain science as an engineer. Maybe you are a musician who's interested in getting more involved in this space. Please join us. We want to kind of have a big tent approach to the Music and Dementia Research Network and hear from you all. And as Dr. Belgrave said, we do have a pilot program where we're focusing on offering pilot studies focused on mechanistic studies of music-based interventions for Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's disease-related dementias. The first call was last October. And we are currently in the process of working with NIH to announce the winners of the pilot awards. They are up to $50,000 for 1 year. And we're hoping to fund in this second year 2 to 3 pilot grants, but we're going to wait for our NIH colleagues to help us with making those decisions. As a part of that pilot program, we'll also be doing some cohort building for the pilot investigators, and we hope that through these pilots, we're going to actually be growing the network. So you might recall earlier I showed you that network that had the nodes that were empty. So we are hoping that these pilot investigators will help us grow the network organically. So be on the lookout for the next call for pilot applications, which we will let you know through our social media channels and also the newsletter. And if you sign up for a profile, you'll learn about it as soon as we know when we're going to announce it again. Okay, Melita, back to you. And then after Melita talks about this infographic that was developed with the AARP and Brain Health Action, then we'll turn over to Pepe, who will talk to us about mobile brain body imaging technologies. Thanks for sticking with us. And as a reminder, please put any questions you might have in the Q&A section on your Zoom. Okay, Melita?
Yeah, and all I really want to say about this slide is how much I love it. And if you have a chance, I'm going to take my time and talk really slow so that you can grab a screenshot of it. It should be in every presentation that you do in your own personal life on the use of music with older adults with dementia. I really love this kind of span approach that it's everywhere that you might find an individual receiving services or just being themselves, their home, their community, if they're living in a facility, if they have to do a hospital stay, as well as end of life. So just really love this infographic. I think it's one that serves us well to have common language when we're talking about the use of music with older adults with dementia and related disorders. So that's all I have to say on that one. I'm going to pass it over to Pepe now.
Great. May I share my screen now?
You bet. I'm going to stop sharing and we'll turn it over to you. And we'll hear about Mobi technology.
While Pepe's doing that, because I know I cannot talk and get my screen correct at the same time a lot of times. Just saying you're in for a really, really, really wonderful treat. Seeing what they do with the Mobi technologies is amazing.
Great, thank you, Melita. I'd like to talk a bit about how we can use neurotechnologies for delivery and assessment of music-based interventions for Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's-related dementias. And really, one of our dreams is, how we can prescribe music in a personalized manner so that we can improve brain health and well-being. And you can think about music perhaps as a diagnostic tool for assessing brain health, as a personalized neuromodulator to treat abnormal brain network dynamics. But the question is how we can use neurotechnology to help achieve these goals. Well, so I'd like to talk a bit about mobile brain body imaging technology that now allows us to deploy this technology in real settings outside the lab or in the clinic. And this is a typical setup that we use in my lab. So in this case, you can see an elastic cap. It's like a swimming cap containing brain electrodes measuring the brain activity generated inside the head of the participant. And this is non-invasive. We are just listening to the brain, listening to the electroencephalogram or EEG. And we also place some electrodes around the eyes. Here you can see a horizontal eye electrode. This is another one on the other side of the head, as well as vertical electrodes. This allows to track eye movements and record eye blinks. This is very important because eye blinks can contaminate EEG signals. They are really powerful. The generator for the readings are just behind the eyes, and they propagate and obscure the brain signal that we're very interested. But also, the eye movements also contain a valuable signal. So it can distort the brain wave, but it can also provide information. For example, the blink rate can be altered by disease or age or some other condition. So it is important to look at in a holistic manner all these signals. We also place a motion sensor on the head, a head motion sensor. Again, this is important for two reasons. One, we know that there is a potential for motion artifacts that could contaminate the EEG recordings. And so by understanding how the participant is controlling their head, moving the head, then we can take care of that, right, during the analysis. But it's also very important because it provides information about body movement. So again, it can be a bad signal, a noise signal that is affecting EEG, but on the other hand, it provides behavioral information about head motion in this case. Usually, these recordings are synchronized with video recorders, sound recorders, so that we can align all the signals and with high resolution. We're talking about recording at 1,000 hertz or even higher than that, so that we have very precise control and analysis of the information that we are recording. Now, typically, we use between 1 to 12 motion sensors or inertial measurement units. In this case, we're showing only one, but you can place these sensors, on the hands, on the body, to understand better how the participant moves the body during the intervention. For EEG, in real settings, we typically go up to 60 electrodes. Most often we use 28, which is what you are seeing in this picture. Particularly, we are recording more than one participant. And for EOG, you can use between 1 and 4. 4 is what you see here. I give you the highest accuracy in terms of tracking the eye movements and eye blinks. Now, in terms of recording the participants, of course, we can record one at a time, a solo recording, or in dyad, for example, a patient and caregiver, or maybe two of the participants that are part of a group, or trios or more. It just really depends on the equipment available to you and the time you have to set up this before the intervention starts. This is, as an example, I'm going to show some video clips of a collaboration that we recently had with my colleague, Dr. Borna Bonagdarpur at Northwestern Music and Medicine, and last week. So this is very recent. And this is a team. We were hosted by Sandy and Jonathan Miller from the Sounds Good Choir, and Clara Takarabe, who is an accomplished viola musician with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And my students, Anel and Aime, assisted with the setup and the recordings. And we had two volunteers instrumented with 28 sensors for EEG, the motion sensor, the 4 sensors around the eyes. And they're wearing on the back the transmitter, the Wi-Fi transmitter that allows us to send the information to the receivers on the table where the data is stored and analyzed in real time. So this was a great experience. We were able to record in 4 different sessions with our hosts, Borna and Clara. Now, in a typical MOBI experiment or clinical trial, we always start with some pre-testing or pre-test condition, right? In this case, we want to check what is the quality of the signal that we are recording, the EEG signals. And just to give you an idea, in this case, this skull map is a representation of the 28 sensors that we use for recording the brain. And this follows the 1020 standard layout. So this is a standard for this so that we can compare with other studies. And after we verify that the quality of the signal is reflecting the impedance of the electrode, which we want to minimize, is good, then we have to what we call pre-calibration session, where we ask participants to open their eyes for 60 seconds, not ask a rest, and then during eyes closed condition for another 60 seconds. And this is really to get a baseline recording at rest, not task, and use that to understand what's the level of noise, what are the dynamics of the brain during this condition. So after that, then we proceed to the music-based intervention. And that's by design. It can last from as short as 5 minutes, as long as as needed for the experiment. Myself, I've been instrumental with this technology for up to 8 hours. So that's my own record of wearing this device on my head for 8 hours. But we have had participants that have wear this device, not continuously, but for up to 18 months in a longitudinal study. So you can really get used to it. Now, after we complete the music-based intervention, then we have a post-calibration session where, again, we ask participants to open their eyes for 60 seconds, then close their eyes, and we measure the impedance, the electrode impedance, again at the end to test about the signal quality. This is important because the impedance of the electrode depends or fluctuates with the humidity, with the temperature, and maybe there was movement of the electrode. So there are many factors that can affect the signal quality, and we want to make sure we record that. Now, we have developed algorithms that are adaptive, or known as adaptive noise canceling. And I will not talk about that today, but we plan to offer some other webinars and workshops to go into the technical aspects. But there are certainly many types of artifacts that can contaminate your signal. I already mentioned some, but we have developed algorithms that are identifying these artifacts and then removing them in an adaptive manner, sample by sample. So this is very important because methods that just get a template, just a pattern for an artifact, and then subtract that across all the channels, they do not really take into account volume conduction or how this signal propagates through the medium and are distorted by that medium, but also because things change over time due to humidity, changing in humidity, temperature, and other factors. So it's very important to remove these artifacts at the single electrode level, right? And this is what we have accomplished, and this is published in the literature. I can provide reference to that. Now, these are some examples of recordings that we did with our colleagues at Northwestern University Medical School. And just to give an example of the things we did. And just to give an idea, we went to the location for the recordings. I believe we did 4 different locations. And in advance to set up all the equipment you can see on the table on the back. So we had all the receivers for all the data is being transmitted through Wi-Fi. We have a couple of computers. We have also a motion sensor console here that is receiving wirelessly the data from the motion sensors on the head. And we also have a box that synchronizes everything through a TTL trigger. It's a pulse that's sent to all these systems so that we can synchronize the recordings for these 2 participants. That means that because they are synchronized, we can actually look at brain-to-brain communication, or how the brain activity of one participant relates to the brain activity of the other, as well as the movement. So let me play this. Okay, so let me show you another one. Oh, this is no music. We have different conditions. We have different conditions. I'm hope that you can listen to the music. Is that correct?
Okay, we're not hearing the audio.
Oh, you're not hearing the audio. Oh, let me see what I can do here.
The powerful beat, the powerful beat puts a tingle in your fingers and a tingle in your feet. Rhythm on the inside, rhythm on the street, and the rhythm of life is a powerful beat. Go spread the gospel in Milwaukee, take a walkie-talkie to Rocky with all the way to Canton, and rhythm on the street, and the rhythm of life is a powerful beat. And the rhythm of life is a powerful beat. Puts a tingle in your fingers and a tingle in your feet. Rhythm on the inside, rhythm on the street, and the rhythm of life is a powerful beat.
Well, don't know what's my computer. Let me check a different Can you hear it now?
No.
Well, first time that happens, I don't know what, let me see. Hmm.
Pepe, could you describe what's going on without the audio,
Yeah, let
perhaps?
me do that. I apologize. I don't know what's happening here. So yeah, so we have different conditions. So uh, you know, people were singing with the music. They were singing just imagining that they were singing, but there was no actual attempt or physical movement. They were singing with no music. So that's how some of the conditions we tested. And here you can see this is actually the current image is in a church. And so they have their choir, and we have a volunteer here that's wearing our system and just being part of the session. And so really I guess the point is we can really take this technology to you to the location of of the intervention via the clinic or via in a public setting, a church, in any place. So we carry this with us. We brought two systems so that we could record two people at the same time, and it wasn't the first time for us to work with this with the choir and also with people with Alzheimer's disease. So that was really instructive, and it speaks also to workforce development because my students were really very excited about this opportunity, this collaboration. So these are just another example. So you cannot listen to the music. Here we have two participants. You cannot see the second one is behind this room. And here Clara is playing the viola, and we have the two participants listening to the music. So this is passive listening. That was another condition that we tested. And I put this picture because you can see that the participant on the right is wearing a tubular elastic net dressing. And no, we come in different forms, our heads. So for example, there are caps that are designed for people from Asia because they have different form for the heads, and we have caps that are designed for babies or children, and sometimes we had to use this netting to ensure that there's very good contact of the electrode with the scalp of the participant, and these are the things that we are tricks of the trade, that we go and do our best in terms of securing the instrumentation to the participant.
Hey, Pepe,
Yeah.
we should probably go shift to Q&A. Feel free to wrap up.
Yeah. So this is my last slide.
Terrific. Thank you.
And so, one way to see this is, we have the combination of a music-based intervention. We have MOBI, brain-computer interface, and AI, right? So with the interplay of music and using MOBI and brain-computer interfaces, we can investigate questions related to how music neuromodulates brain activity. We can assess functional mapping due to a particular piece of music. And we can, also investigate questions about affective science or, emotion, memory, and others. Now, with the combination of MOBI and brain-computer interface and AI, we can design devices for delivering these interventions based on brain activity state. So we can record EEG and based on that, deliver specific music for a specific condition. This is also very useful for designing digital twins so that we have a model that predicts the effect of particular intervention before you go and implement the intervention. Of course, as a biomarker or diagnostic tool. Now, so if we combine the MOBI with brain-computer interface through AI, then we can start to personalize these prescriptions, right? And this is because we're looking at the individual brain. So the neural individuality and variation is really important to be able to prescribe these interventions. And of course, we're talking about real world data through clinical trials, rehearsals, or performances, but it's also a great opportunity for informal and active learning as we take the technology and the music-based interventions to the public. So I'm very excited about this network and excited about what we can do together all here and beyond. Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Pepe. If you could stop sharing slides, yeah. Terrific. We can see everybody now. Yeah, let's open it up for some Q&A. If anybody has a question, I see a few in the Q&A section. Feel free to type it in. We're happy to answer any of your questions. I see one that one of the participants asked, Pepe, this is directed toward you. Are musical selections chosen by the study subject positive bias based on preference that are aligned with one's joyful experience may be useful? Yes?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to be able to functionally map the effect of music on the brain, to consider not only the preference from the participant, but also novel music or sounds. We know that novelty recruits additional parts of the brain, and we want really to understand what's the best way to gain access to a brain or a particular area, and that do not necessarily mean using your favorite music. And so we are making a concerted effort. Part of our mission is to really be inclusive in terms of the music, Western, non-Western, different type of music, so that we can really, gain access and have a more true picture of the response of the brain.
Thank you for that wonderful answer. Here's a question for Melita. I know you answered it online, but I think this is probably a general question. Are we going to discuss music-based interventions for music therapists to use in memory care groups? How would you respond to that, Melita?
I would. I'm so excited. Thank you for bringing that question. I work with some colleagues on an international perspective, so the United States, Canada, China, and Australia, and we've been working on these different workshops that we do together to talk about how we use music, focusing on the human, focusing on global perspectives, how we address culture through our music therapy intervention. So that is a webinar that we'll be doing later this spring or early summer, and will be continued to be woven throughout our years together as the research network.
Yeah, so stay tuned on our website and our social media channels about upcoming webinars. I know Pepe is going to do a whole webinar on mobile-based Mobi technologies. And you got a little taste of it today with his presentation, which was super interesting. And I love all the pictures that you shared that were really just from a week ago from your visit.
Yeah.
One of the other participants in the research network. I do know that we're going to try to do an overview of the brain mechanisms of music as another webinar that's also in the works. And anything else that I forgot, Melita or Pepe?
I don't think so, but I do see another question in the Q&A that might be good for Pepe.
Let me see. Do you have any preliminary data about how the brain responds to imaging singing compared to actual singing? Well, I think we should be able to tell you by the end of the summer. This data is really new, and so we are going to be working on that in the next few months. But we are very excited about the different conditions. Yes.
And it sounds like you had how many different conditions, 4 or
Yeah,
5?
we actually had a total of 10 conditions, and we were there, and so Bora and I, make sure that we got everything we needed, and I just spoke about some, yeah.
And to me, the exciting part is that not only are you able to collect data on the person living with dementia, but also their care partner in a dyad. So I
Yeah,
think that, and in a group setting,
there we
which I think you illustrated with, even though the audio may not have been ideal, but I think you were illustrating the potential of Mobi technologies to take these relevant conditions that families and our communities are dealing with on a day-to-day basis and start to think about what are the mechanisms by which music actually has a positive impact on people living with dementia and their care partners or whoever is willing to be involved in perhaps making music together, which is super exciting.
Yeah, no, thank you, Yolene, for that comment, because I think it's very important to inform the public about the technology, what can do, it cannot do, what are the, your safety and, privacy and all these aspects that we are all very interested on, right? So it was a great opportunity to talk to them about this, why it takes, but also to listen to the questions. I always learn from our participants. I mean, they are really pioneers, wearing this technology and being part of this research. So really appreciate that, their time and effort.
Yeah, well said. We're very appreciative of our community members who help us learn about what works so we can ultimately develop better music-based interventions that can be delivered in these various care settings. I wanted to share one last slide. This is the takeaway. Let me just get it here. I want to remind folks that we have the QR code that you're welcome to use to link directly to our website, which is mdrn.ucsf.edu. I also want to thank the National Institute of Health, in particular the National Institute on Aging, for our cooperative agreement, which you can see the reference there. And importantly, we want to thank the Brain Center, which is Pepe is the principal investigator, Arizona State University, who for some reason we left off as the logo here, University of California, San Francisco, and ultimately want to thank the project manager, Julian Silva, who helped us get this webinar together and keeps our research network organized. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us. please look for the webinar, which will be posted on our website and our social channels. I believe we're on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm blocking on perhaps that we're also on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with us. And it was wonderful to see you and hopefully see you for the next webinar next month. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.